I've seen the movie now. I hadn't seen the movie at South by, and it is fucking brilliant. It's so hilarious. Like
Right.
I loved the death out of it. It is so
Oh,
good.
that's great.
It is
I'm
so.
so happy.
It is like I think it's like I'm pretty sure it's like a I know you can't predict a cult classic, but it feels like it's a cult classic in the making. Uh,
God, that's cool.
it's
I
so
was I was saying in one of the other interviews that because there's so many jokes so fast and everything, you kind of have to see it more than once, maybe if
yeah.
you really like it, but that it feels like it involves the audience like a Rocky Horror Show. There's something about it that invites you to throw something at
Yeah,
people,
totally, totally.
you
Yeah.
know? It's like
Yeah.
so rowdy that you could
Yeah,
actually get involved and not feel bad about it. So maybe it will, who knows?
yeah.
We're due.
100%. And I'm so glad you brought that up because I was like, should I compare it to the Rocky Horror
I
Show?
know, I know. And also just hearing her say Rocky Horror is so exciting to just hear it
Yeah.
come out of her mouth.
Yeah.
I know. I know.
Yeah. I mean, I was just talking to the Lester brothers about, about sort of the process of, because I kind of got a sense from them, talking to them over the last few months, like what a journey it's been for them to bring this to the screen. And
Yeah.
even once they had it, how tough it was to get distribution, which is shocking when you see the movie because it's so good. And we were talking about sort of the notion of how difficult it is to make like a straight comedy these days because the notion of comedy has kind of changed. And I don't mean like that, like, oh, it's too woke or wait. That's that discourse. I mean like
Yeah.
straight comedy versus like what people consider comedy, like The Bear or,
Right.
or something to that effect, which is called a comedy.
But maybe it's because bankers don't have a sense of humor. And so much of the decisions are being made by
Yeah,
people that really are corporate banker heads as
Right.
opposed to open to something funnier. I don't know.
Right.
right.
It's
Right.
definitely different worlds. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean when you guys were making this one, did it feel like a throwback comedy in any way?
Yeah, it felt different. It definitely but because it was so small and because it was their first and because it was just riddled with it was lousy with funny people. I mean, everybody in small parts, everybody, it felt almost like going to camp and if
Yeah.
nobody sees it, but this is so much fun and we can experiment and they're open, but it had a really great funny script that was really funny character-based funny things and also social commentary things and so I don't think people when you set it up like that there's not the pressure to be a huge hit, there's not a pressure to have eight executives around watching as it goes and all of those things that take it was just us, it was just us playing and having a good time and being with two guys who were so sweet and relaxed and thankful and generous and so it was a very different, it was during COVID. So already we were all sheltering together in a way in that
Right.
bowling alley. So I think it had that. And then the fact that it turned out so well, the fact that it found distribution, the fact that it found the audience, that people like it so much was like a bonus, really.
Yeah. I completely agree with every word. There's something fun and rare about when you're doing a project and, on the day it wraps or whatever, you kind of think to yourself, if nobody ever sees this, will I still be glad I did it? Like, was that experience worth whatever? And this one was like every single day was worth whatever. It was worth low pay. It was worth long hours, whatever it was, because we just had like it just did feel exactly like what you said, like a little camp. It was just for us. We were just like playing just us. And then if people happen to see it in the future, great. And the fact that, I think that almost made it shocking when we saw it at South by Southwest in a packed theater, you know, that people were laughing so much that they were missing the next joke. I think we sort of ascended into heaven. We were like, oh, it worked, it worked, it worked. It was just such a great feeling.
Let's talk about these characters. Darcy, like Walt, I think Skunk, you could say is kind of a hot mess. Uh,
Yeah.
is she like the hottest mess you've played? Is she the drunkest character you've played?
I think she might be the hottest mess I've played. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's the hottest mess I've ever played because I've definitely never played that drunk.
Yeah.
Um, which is a funny, almost seems like it would be easy to just play drunk, but what a weird little, what a weird little thing to do all day. And I sometimes when you play drunk for a long time, you almost feel drunk, and you're like, I'm like driving home at the end of the day, like, am I allowed to be driving right now? But yeah, she's a mess. She's a total mess, which was very freeing and fun, and didn't just really got to like, I mean, she's like a little piece of shit. I love her.
How would you relate to her? Would you also like to wrestle Timothy Chalamet?
Yeah, I would love to wrestle Timothy Chalamet. I think, I mean, how do I relate to her? Like, how do I relate to her? Is she, like, she's a hot mess, and she can have some bad instincts, but she's good in her soul. She wants to help Walt. She's like, she's had a hard life, and she's been maybe steered in the wrong direction, but I love her. You just you gotta find some reason to love the character she played, villain, non-villain, whatever, and she was easy to love.
Yeah. And Susan, I mean, Linda is the most put together person on earth compared to these two lovable losers. How much did you enjoy that dynamic and just getting to belittle them the whole time on set?
Well, being a narcissist that doesn't care about anybody and being so racist, you don't even know you're racist, and just it's so freeing,
Right.
It's really always much more fun to play Captain Hook than Peter Pan.
Okay.
So to be able to just throw away some of those lines was so much fun. And she's pulled together in a lot of ways, yeah, because she's just only about herself. I've played a lot of everything from Marmee to Sister Helen, so
Right.
it's great to get to play a really repulsive person, but the fans seem, within the movie seem to love her. So
Yeah.
people do recognize that somebody who's just completely who they authentically are. There is some seduction to that, even when they're horrible. And I think we see that sometimes even in our politics.
Yeah. I was going to say,
we sure do.
Yeah, were there specific people that you might have drawn inspiration from?
They gave me enough. They gave me enough.
But it was so incredible to, like, Susan came in the second week, I think, that we were filming, and the way that the cast and crew, this icon walks onto our shitty little bowling set, where it's like, it's the place where we shot is actually a bowling alley, but it's not even in use. It's like so old and bad and probably like full of mold or something. But for Susan to walk onto that set of a little indie movie, the Lester Brothers' first movie, it was like, it raised our game up 100%, but also, like, how cool of her to do a movie like this. And I just, like, to have fun with a character, like a villain in a hard comedy. It just, I have been a fan of Susan forever, but this just even raised it more. Like, I mean, God, I love her. Hey, Kevin,
Yeah.
I love her so much.
I can tell.
She's so great.
So, yeah, same.
Yeah.
Where was that bowling alley, by the way?
It was in Highland Park in like East LA.
Oh.
Yeah, in a really cool part of town. Somebody should buy that bowling alley and give it a little facelift. It's a great part of town.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to be like a historical landmark now.
I mean,
seriously, classic. That's all.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I had no idea Shamik Moore was so funny.
I know.
I mean,
he didn't
doesn't know that he's so funny. He's always saying, "I'm not funny. I'm not funny," which makes it even funnier because he is.
Yeah.
As Darcy pointed out earlier, that as the shoot went on, he started to get more and more confident about. So now we know he's a good bowler, he's a great dancer, and he's funny.
It's funny.
Yeah.
And he has just sort of like a unique weirdness that really is so Walt. And I wonder if, like, anyone else could have tapped into that. Things like especially physically weird, like the Elvis and the robot thing that he was doing, those were all just in the moment out of his own brain. And I even, I remember kind of like looking back at the Lester Brothers, like, oh, this is different. And they were just so giddy with, like, that he would bring something so new and strange to the table. It was really cool.
Yeah, the way the movie starts off, I was thinking, is he going to be shirtless the entire time? Like, are they really going for it? And he starts to add some layers, some stickers.
Yeah. He starts to add some layers in more ways than one.
Well
Wow.
put.
Beautiful.
Well,
Beautiful.
well put.
Thanks.
I love that I love that there's a real wall. The Lester brothers were saying that there's actually a guy that kind of inspired them whose name was Walt, and it's also a great throwback to one of the other great bowling movies, which is The Big Lebowski. And
Yeah.
it's hard not to watch this movie and not think about like other great bowling comedies. There's really two, I think,
Yeah.
Kingpin and The Big Lebowski. Why is there so much? Why do you guys think there's so much comedy to be mined from bowling?
I didn't think there was until I read the script.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean, The Big Lebowski does have bowling in it, and it's kind of a man cave version of, from what I remember about Big Lebowski, all the guys hanging out and
Right,
whatever.
right, right.
But I didn't think of bowling as being really
Right.
a place, having done baseball, having done a ping pong movie. She's done a baseball movie.
Yeah.
There's room in that because it's almost a metaphoric slow game.
Right.
Whereas bowling, until you try to bowl, which I found out, doesn't look as difficult
Right.
unless you're a bowler, right?
Right.
It doesn't, it looks like, okay, you're just throwing it
Anyone
down.
can do it. Right.
And yeah, and you don't realize how much skill it takes. And so I don't know if it's as fertile a ground. I think what made it really interesting was that it's been predominantly a white game.
Yeah.
And that is the trick of it, right? Is that
Yeah.
it so is an infiltration of a minority kind of representation in that. Am I going on too much? But you know what I'm saying.
Oh, totally. That's totally correct. Yeah. And the Lester brothers do such a great job of exploring that and making fun of it and commenting on it and in a way that they do so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were saying when they would first tell people the premise to this movie, they would say, yeah, it's about a black guy who becomes this bowling star. And they're like, and people go, oh my God, that sounds so inspirational. They
They're like, no, no, no. That's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah. If you just say it a certain way, it's like, what a beautiful story.
yeah, yeah.
And
They're
then
like,
you watch the trailer, you're like, what?
yeah. They're like, people
No,
were making The Blind Side or like The Great Debate.
right.
Or something.
That's so funny. But I mean, that is one of the superpowers of the Lester brothers is they like no stone is left unturned when it comes to making fun of everybody. They really like, and maybe making fun of is the wrong word for it, but they like, God, they are so funny and so smart and so dumb at the same time. And it all comes out in the script.
I mean, when you have the clashing of these narratives, when you have the clashing of the framework of some and that's based on race, also that's really spectacular
Yeah.
because you don't have to comment on it. You just put it
Right.
out there. And
Right.
and yeah, their sense of humor. I mean, when I read the script initially, I did call my agent and say, I hope the people that wrote this are black because if you're not going to get away with this.
Right.
And they were like, no, 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 don't worry. Don't worry. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. And then when I met with them, they were so gentle and so sweet.
Mhm.
So funny.
Enthusiastic,
Yeah. And sweeties, they're sweeties. They are so like loving and generous and they love each other and they really, they are, would you say they're like very giving with their love? Like I felt loved on that set. It wasn't like, none of us had worked with them before. And so it wasn't like some old relationship. It was like, they just felt I'm sure had so much going on as first time directors and their first movie, but there was so much checking in on us and how are you doing and what can I do? They're lovely. They're lovely. They're lovely. They're yeah. Yeah.
Finally, did this experience make you guys better bowlers?
I wish I could say it did. The funny thing is like, I mean, Susan did bowl in this quite a bit, but I never did. Skunk never bowls. So
Right.
we had like a day or two, even though we shot on a bowling alley, we weren't using it a ton just because it was like the set. But there was a couple days where we could get a few shots in and I didn't do great, Kevin. I didn't do great. But Susan
How about you,
improved.
Susan? Yeah.
Yeah, but I threw my ass out trying to do it the right way because you have to put your foot behind the other one and then you're leaning. And so I did that during my instructive days before I got to, and then I could barely walk. So I just gave up on doing it the right way and did
Right.
it just so you could get it down. But it actually, I guess our bowling alley hadn't been oiled or something, because when they brought in the gal that was going to do all my strikes, she couldn't make a strike. And then strangely, I threw it down just haphazardly. And so she was furious because I made a strike. But
Yeah.
it,
So the
it
woman that
wasn't
they flew in to the pro, you know,
Amazing.
she couldn't do it, but because does it have to be oiled or
I
something?
think so. She was like, this is not right. This
Yeah.
alley, I almost just said court. That shows you how little I know. This alley, like it's off, the dimensions, the oil, whatever. And
And it was
Susan,
during COVID, so everything had been closed up, and we were probably fighting, as you said, asbestos or something.
yeah,
And so no, it wasn't in good shape, which us non-bowlers really hadn't thought of for the
right.
pro that got brought in. It wasn't conducive.
It's
So
so funny.
but Shamik is good.
Yeah.
Shamik actually.
Has a real talent. Yeah.
Yeah, he's legit. Yeah, cool. Well, it was such a delight to speak with you guys both. I really
Same
appreciate
here.
your time today,
Thank you.
and again, great work in this film.
Thanks, Kevin.